Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto Had to Save Cursed Hinata Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Kiba took a deep, labored breath before slamming his fist into Shino's head. The Aburame attempted to dodge, but was no match for Kiba's fist's quick change of direction as it implanted itself squarely in the bug boy's stomach. They'd been at it for the better part of the day, deciding that it was best to get the majority of their training done now so that they wouldn't injure each other when the next part of the exams came around. With the deadline only 4 days away, they couldn't afford to waste any time, especially with Hinata in her current state. They had just received word from Kurenai that Hinata's sealing had been successful, and that the girl had been placed in her own room, close to theirs but still separate in case the girl began screaming again. That part had been extremely unsettling. "Hinata, are you screaming?" The Hyuga was essentially a more flustered, slightly emotional, feminine version of Shino. She was too shy or embarrassed to be overly emotional, but she wasn't as withdrawn as he was. Hinata, on the other hand, did not scream. She didn't scream either, so the fact that this sealing process had made her do so meant that he was to blame for yet another thing. It was all because he was too frail. Kiba, contrary to popular belief, was no fool. He knew that Orochimaru's fangs could have been laced with venom instead of the creepy sealing thing, and that in the 10 minutes it took the rest of them to get to their feet, Hinata could have easily died of cardiac arrest or something even worse. He knew, and Shino clearly did, that there was a power behind his punches that Kiba had never seen before. It was as if it was fueled by the frustration of the events of the previous 2 days. It was unusual to see the alienated boy so emotional. Kiba jerked his head to the right, his senses heightened by the fact that he was in the midst of a fierce fight, to hear Akamaru's barking. It wasn't the happy or relaxed barking Kiba was used to, but rather one that warned him of something. Not concerned, but on edge. Shino paused his assault as well, probably curiously cocking his head in Akamaru's direction. Kiba blinked a few times in quick succession at the form in front of him, following Akamaru's gaze. His mouth dropped open in surprise, not because he didn't want to see Hinata standing boldly a few meters to his right, but because he had expected the girl to be sound asleep. Kiba stammered, unable to believe what his eyes were telling him. "Wait, what are you doing here?" "Fight me," she said quietly, almost as if she were a ghost. What?" Kiba asked again, noticing Shino tense beside him. "I said, fight me," snapped Hinata with a firmness that Kiba had never seen before. Fight you?" Kiba asked again, as he examined Hinata's entire body from head to toe. Kiba could tell she hadn't gotten enough sleep because the bags under her eyes stood out against her pale skin. "I can't. You're still not physically fit to do anything." The girl clenched her teeth in rage. Kiba's heart almost skipped a beat as a shrouded aura began to overtake the girl as she clenched her fists with a grunt. The 2 male genin slowly backed away, scared of the normally timid girl, as Akamaru's loud barking fell on deaf ears. The girl activated her Byakugan with another grunt, the dark aura dissipating as strange black marks raced all over her skin. Hinata approached Kiba and Shino with a slightly twisted grin on her face, ignoring Kiba's alarmed canine companion's panicked barks. "Whether you like it or not, fight me or I'll fight you." "That would be foolish," Shino said, clearing his throat. "Hinata, please reconsider. Fighting anyone while you're still in this condition would be disastrous." The girl ignored the normally composed boy's pleas as she approached him, but Kiba's gaze was not drawn to her. Instead, they were wide and large as they watched Akamaru charge at the young Hyuga, intent on biting off a piece of her skin to save his master from the threat in front of him. As Akamaru leapt into the air, he was met with a swift Juken strike to the chest, instantly knocking him to the ground as his rough barking turned into slow whimpering. Hinata's black marks on her body faded as she joined her teammate's injured dog, cradling the pup in her arms. "What did I do?" "So, how are we supposed to go about this again?" asked Naruto, his gaze fixed on Kakashi, who was too preoccupied with his book to respond. "Just follow the instructions on the scrolls, Naruto. It's not that difficult," Sakura explained. "I'm not sure I understand. Do we follow the hand seals from left to right or up to down, or?" "You start from the right side of the scroll and work your way down like any other scroll dobe," Sasuke sighed, not in the mood to deal with Naruto's stupidity. "And how much chakra do we pump into the technique?" Naruto inquired of his teammates. "Didn't you hear this stuff at the academy?" Sakura sighed. It's why learning techniques isn't as simple as just catching the hand seals, because everyone has different coils that respond differently each time you push out chakra with a hand seal. You need to find the right amount for you, and some people just can't get certain techniques to work for them, while others can take years to master one. So, if I just pour a bunch of chakra into a technique, won't that make it stronger? Yes and no, Sakura said, almost as if she were a professor. More chakra makes it more potent, but it also makes it more unstable, and hand seals can only keep your chakra stable for so long before it blows up in your face. So that chakra control nonsense is important. Naruto's eyes squinted as Sakura firmly nodded her head. That sucks. I'm really bad at it, but I guess it's not that bad because everyone has to go through the same pro. Except for me, Sasuke said smugly. If I've seen a technique before, the Sharingan automatically tells my coils how much chakra to produce when replicating it. Yes, Kakashi said as he closed his book with a thud and pulled his headband up, revealing a dark, glowing red eye. It does. The Sharingan is an excellent shortcut in battle, allowing you to flip techniques on opponents and learn thousands of jutsu as I myself have done. But it's a shortcut, and the long way is always more beneficial in the long run. There's a secret to this Dijutsu. A secret. Sasuke's eyes widened as the three genin nearly gasped together. It doesn't master the technique for you. In order to not spill a lot of chakra and maximize its potency while maintaining a high level of stability, you need to practice. And practice hard. The ninja way is not an easy one. Things will blow up in your face, as Sakura said, but a true ninja does not let scars deter him. Where are your scars, Kakashi-sensei? Inquired Naruto, intently listening to the man's teachings. They were both valuable and scarce. Mine, Kakashi chuckled slightly. A few of them are visible physically, and you can sometimes see the ones on my face, but the biggest type of scarring a ninja is prone to, and the type of scarring I most heavily suffer from, is mental scarring. Emotional scarring, the wounds that never fade. The ones the average bystander can't see. Ninja are those who stand up despite them. And that is what separates ninja. Emotional scarring. Sakura wondered, like when a loved one stops loving you. Did your girlfriend dump you or something once? She's dead, Kakashi stated as bluntly as a bullet. My best friend died as I stood by. Unable to help, my teacher gave his life without hesitation for thousands of people, and my father committed suicide when I was a boy. That's a nice sob story, Sasuke said coldly. But none of you know what it's like to have people ripped away from you. Almost everyone you've ever known, mercilessly cut down by the person you most admired. As Sasuke, Sakura bit her lower lip as her blood chilled. Was this the reason he was so sour with everyone? Was this the reason Kakashi seemed so distant, so disturbed? Well, I've never really had a best friend, Naruto admitted almost sadly, and I don't know the pain of losing someone because I've never been all that close to anyone. But that's my story, and the entire village spits on me for being something I never asked to be in the first place. Does this have anything to do with why he was kicked out of the Chunin exams? Sakura thought with a frown on her face. She didn't have a sad story to tell. The worst day of her life had been when her pet bunny died when she was 8 years old. Her parents adored her, and she adored them. They lived happily in a prosperous middle-class home. Did this make her unsuitable for ninja training? You guys, Sakura stuttered, tears welling up in her eyes, your lives sound so horrible. Mine must be a piece of cake in comparison. She wiped her eyes with her arm, but I'm here for any one of you. Kakashi-sensei, Sasuke-kun. Naruto, maybe I'm not worthy to be a ninja, but I want to be a worthy friend to all of you. Sakura, don't talk nonsense. Naruto's head snapped up, causing Sakura to pause as she went to rub her eyes. Of course, you'll be a deserving ninja. Sakura could only stare in awe as Sasuke and Kakashi both nodded slightly, the young girl's eyes welling up with tears as Naruto went on. You're intelligent, you have a strong will, and you always know what to say. Thank you, Sakura sniffed. I guess you're the one I should apologize to the most. For the past few years, I've been a terrible teammate and an even worse friend. Don't worry about it, let's get back to learning these jutsu. We'll be the most badass team in Konoha in a few weeks. Naruto exclaimed, raising his fist in celebration. Hold on, Sasuke said emphatically, raising his hand. Regarding what Kakashi-sensei was saying, I'd like to learn more about your team. Well, sighed Kakashi before deciding it was best to let out what he had been holding in for so long. We weren't your typical Genin team. I was a Chunin when I joined. Rin, the girl I was talking about, was pretty strong for a Genin and pretty hot-headed as well. Abido, who would later become my best friend, and I never really got along until the very end. I was strong, he was weak. I was quiet, he was loud. I lived by the rule book, he lived to break them. Sounds suspiciously like Kakashi cut Sakura off with a look. I know. But, long story short, during the last battle we fought as a full team, I injured my eye. And Obaido's dying gift to me was his Sharingan. HMPH. So that's where you got it from, Sasuke said indifferently as he crossed his arms, though the Uchiha's voice was clearly approving. His gaze shifted to Naruto for a brief moment, and he wondered if, in such a situation, he would be willing to pass on his legacy to the blonde. As Kakashi continued, such thoughts were pushed to the side. So things crumbled afterwards. Believe it or not, we started out as Team 7 as well, but after Obaido's death, we disbanded. It wasn't long after that Rin died on the battlefield, and I don't particularly feel like going into details about how that happened. So that's my life story. Kids, I hope you learned from it, said Kakashi, his emotionless tone returning as he opened his book again. Wait, this sensei you were talking about, you said he sacrificed himself without hesitation for thousands of other people. Who was he? Sasuke asked, not entirely satisfied. Yeah, if he did something that big, I'm sure he'd be all over the textbooks, Sakura added. Oh, but he is, Kakashi chuckled, closing his Sharingan eye once more. Minato Namikaze was his name. The second proctor of the exam wasn't sure how she got roped into babysitting the latest victim of her former sensei's seal, but she was now in a pickle. While Kurenai went to explain to her other two students that Hinata had not been fully in control of her actions, Anko was tasked with telling the young Hyuga that there would be times when worse things could happen if Hinata did not maintain control of her emotions. Anko had spent some time with the cursed seal and was well aware of what it could and would do to a person. She knew it was a horrible thing, something akin to a mark that labeled you as having been corrupted by something from the lowest circle of hell, and while that description wasn't entirely accurate, it wasn't all that bad if you could control it. Anko still couldn't, and she never intended to. Harnessing the power of such a dark and twisted man's gift was not only asking for trouble, but it also showed a lack of respect for your own power, your own training ability, your own ability to gain strength. Anko hadn't willingly tapped into the seal's power in years. It twisted you in ways that made death a better fate. And Anko was fairly certain that if given the choice between death and allowing the seal to consume her, she would choose the former. It wasn't that it wasn't honorable. They were ninja, so nothing was dishonorable. It was just dangerous. As well as frightening, it physically and mentally transformed you into a monster. Thus, the dilemma was how to approach this petite young girl and inform her that her ninja career as she knew it was about to be completely rewritten. Anko sighed and looked at the girl's almost motionless form, her lilac eyes wide with horror. Kid, you know staring at your legs all day isn't going to help anyone. Anko broke the silence. If she had hoped for a response, Hinata would not be disappointed as she continued to avoid the gaze of the higher-ranked shinobi. Anko's face creased as she realized she'd have to try a different approach with the young girl. Anko moved from her position and knelt down by Hinata's side, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Look, what happened today was a mistake, and you learn from it and move on. But what if it happens again? Hinata asked, her voice small. The Hokage's seal is a prevention seal, which means it will do everything it can to keep you from unintentionally tapping into that bite mark Orochimaru gave you, Anko explained. There is no way to completely turn it off. Every now and then it will try to seep in and take effect like a drug. Every time you have some, you'll want more. And fighting without it is almost as difficult as not tapping into the energy source. However, if you can avoid it, never willingly use that power. Yes, Hinata said meekly, her voice barely above a whisper. If it starts acting up, the only person who can stop it is yourself, Anko explained. From what I've heard, it was having an effect on you last night, and because you didn't know how to stop it, it managed to get a hold on you, which is why you wanted to spar with your teammates. That is only the beginning, though, unless you can prevent yourself from using it. Nobody can help you fight it, so you have to be strong. Your willpower is what keeps that evil seal in place, and if your will falters, you will find yourself. I understand, Hinata said, still avoiding eye contact. Good, Anko said as she rose to her feet. Now I have to get myself so. Anko abruptly stopped speaking, staring curiously at the timid girl. Something was wrong. Kid, if something bothers you, this is probably the best time to let it out. It's nothing, Hinata murmured, looking to the ground to brush Anko's words away. Look, I know you didn't ask for this. Believe me, I didn't ask for the bastard to try and give me a love bite either, but you've got to keep your head held high. There was a 9 in 10 chance you'd die when he branded you with the seal and you survived, but that's still only half the battle. You've got to be strong. People will make fun of you and avoid you like the plague because of the seal. But she silently prayed that there were no recording devices in the room, or else her reputation would be jeopardized. All right, Hinata said, nodding slightly. Normally, Anko's words would have reminded her of a certain blonde boy who liked to keep his head held high. But something else was bothering her right now. Okay, Anko asked again, not buying it. You know, the two of us are kinda unique. No one else in all of Konoha has ever been in such a predicament, even if it's not a good one. Which means I've got a responsibility to make sure that you, as someone who'll go through similar things to what only I have gone through, are okay. Now, are you going to tell me what's wrong, or am I going to have to resort to my own methods? I just don't know how my family is going to react to this. Minato and Namikaze. Sekira trembled in awe. The Minato Namikaze. Last I checked, there was only one. But you never know with all the people in Konoha. Kakashi casually flipped another page of his book. You can't be serious. Naruto's mouth dropped open in surprise, and Sasuke's full attention was on the masked teacher in front of him for the first time. What, you thought I got this strong by reading books? Kakashi joked, motioning to the book in his hand. Something along those lines, Sasuke said. I assumed you were born into a powerful family or something, but having the Yondaime as a teacher pretty much explains everything. I was born into a strong family, Kakashi corrected, as if he'd just said the most common statement in the world. When my father was alive, he was probably just a little below par with the Sannin. Your father? Inquired Naruto, his eyes twinkling with interest, while Sakura's eyes widened slightly, the pink-haired girl quickly putting two and two together. At this point, I might as well write an autobiography, sighed Kakashi. He was the Sakumo Hadake, he was the... Sakura cut him off with White Fang of Konoha, recalling the numerous lessons they'd had on famous Konoha ninja. So I guess that means you can only really get as strong as you if you have an amazing teacher, and a strong genetic ninja history, she frowned. Not necessarily, Kakashi replied. You must understand that people who come from strong families are often strong because they work hard and continue to try to be strong in order to impress their clan. Aside from bloodlines, there isn't much of a difference if you come from the street or if you are a direct descendant of the Sage of Six Paths. Yeah, I don't even know who my parents are, but that won't stop me from being the Leaf's best Hokage. Naruto pumped his fist. Then you've also got to consider the fact that I'm not even that strong in comparison to others. As much as I'd hate to admit it, I'm far from the strongest ninja to ever live, Kakashi said, making eye contact with the three of them. Then you've also got to consider the fact that the Yondaime wasn't the world's best teacher. Though he was an incredible ninja, the strongest one I have ever come across, that. You're not the best teacher either, Sasuke pointed out flatly. I understand, Kakashi admitted. But, given that we're all still alive today, I believe we've accomplished everything. Yeah, Naruto said angrily, waving his hand around. Can you tell us more about the Yondaime? Was he really as handsome as they say he was? Sakura wondered as she clenched her fists. He did have women lining up for him, but he was far from a ladies' man. Kakashi chuckled, lost in fond reminiscence. Whatever, Naruto replied, impatiently seeking his own answers. Did he teach you any of his kick-ass jutsu? There's plenty, Kakashi said calmly. And I don't suppose you intend to teach us any of those. Sasuke's eyes glinted slightly. Playful but useless elemental jutsu were all well and good, but they paled in comparison to the Yondaime techniques. Nope, Kakashi said cheerfully. That's not fair, Kakashi-sensei. How are we ever going to be a badass team if you don't teach us badass jutsu? Cried Naruto. Well, Naruto, maybe if you could learn those elemental jutsu I so generously gave you, your words would have some more weight. Kakashi said flatly, figuring it was the only way to keep the blonde boy quiet. Duh, fine, I'll learn the stupid jutsu first. Naruto gritted his teeth, sighing slightly. The Yondaime had been his hero since he was a child, and this was the perfect opportunity to learn more about the man and perhaps what prompted the Hokage to select him on that fateful night. So, how was the fourth? He had to start somewhere. He was so nice that up until he was Hokage, he didn't live in a house, and despite having the large amounts of currency to buy almost any large estate, he donated a lot of that and his earnings from being a ninja towards charity, Kakashi explained to his students, hoping that the raven-haired one would take something away from it. While he thought he heard Sasuke scoff, his gaze was drawn to Sakura as she asked a question. What kind of charity do you mean, Kakashi-sensei? Those primarily dedicated to assisting orphans and street rats, Kakashi replied. He himself was an orphan. I'm not sure if he had any known family, but he saw children without families as his own. Minato-sensei was always strange like that. Where did he live then? Naruto wondered. I mean, where else could you live if you're not living in a house? I'd have expected you to know, Naruto. After all, you do live in an apartment, too, Kakashi chuckled. The blonde boy instantly flushed, thinking to himself how cool it was that he shared the same type of lodging as the hero. A single black figure dropped down from the treetops above in a blur just as he was about to respond. While Naruto had seen the masked men before, he was curious as to what one was doing spying on them. However, the man in the porcelain mask spoke before he had a chance to express his concerns. It's nice to see your students have good reflexes, said the ANBU. However, I come regarding a summons. The Hokage requires the immediate presence of Team 7 for a mission, the man said, disappearing with a swirl of leaves, leaving Naruto staring at a somewhat amused Sasuke who appeared to be dozing off. Your mission is to find a certain white-haired man, Sarutobi said, puffing on his pipe. He'll most likely be hanging out in brothels or casinos. Sounds like a bum, Sakura said, a disgusted tone in her voice. It doesn't matter, Sarutobi reassured. His last known location was a village southwest of Konoha, roughly halfway between here and the southern border. The exact details are in your mission scroll, but as I'm sure Kakashi will tell you, don't expect him to be in just one place. And why are we going all that way to find some old man? Naruto wondered. The last old man we met on a mission was a drunk who was being pursued by a guy with a freaking massive sword. I assure you that this mission has a risk factor of almost zero, Sarutobi said warmly. Unfortunately, it won't be as exciting as your last one because the hardest part will be finding the man. Does he have any peculiar quirks or personality traits? Sakura inquired. Like I said, you're most likely to find him in a brothel. I think that should suffice, Sarutobi said. I'd appreciate it if you could get him back here within 2 days, but knowing how difficult he is to find, getting him here as soon as possible will suffice. Don't worry, Jai-chan, we'll find this old man for you no problem, Naruto declared. We'll be back as soon as we can, Kakashi said as he led Team 7 out of the hall. Naruto couldn't help but curse once he was out of earshot of other shinobi. Shit, I thought we were going to be training all the time, he grumbled. That's what I hoped for, but clearly something has come up if the Hokage assigned us this mission, Kakashi said as he read the fine print on the scroll, memorizing every detail. I want the three of you to meet at the front gate in an hour with a light pack, and hopefully we'll be seeing the Konoha walls again in 3 days max. Yes, sensei, they said as one before the three genin dashed away. Kakashi's masked face cracked a small smile. He had seriously doubted that his team would have progressed this far so quickly when he first met them months ago. His faith in them was so strong that he would let them compete for him in the next challenge between him and Guy. That, or he'd simply use them as a distraction while escaping the spandex-clad ninja's sight. The delight of subordinates. Kiba cradled Akamaru's small form close to his chest, the small pup resting after receiving treatment for his injuries. While he was aware that Hinata was not fully in control of her actions, he couldn't help but be enraged at the Hyuga heiress. It hurt him deeply to see his faithful companion injured in such a way, and he knew he wouldn't be able to look at Hinata the same way again. The door opened at that moment, and Kiba found himself looking at the person he had been thinking about. Her gaze was fixed on the floorboards as she yanked on her clothes. Kiba was relieved that Akamaru was sleeping because he was worried about how the pup would react to seeing Hinata so soon. Kiba wanted to scream at her and tell her how horrible she had been to Akamaru. But after hearing Kurenai's talk while Hinata was talking to Anko, he knew that yelling at her would have more negative consequences. At the same time, he couldn't bring himself to say anything nice or polite, not after what had happened. Neither of them said anything, and Hinata considered simply walking out without saying anything. But her lack of courage kept her in place. She raised her head and looked Kiba in the eyes. Kiba could see the depth of her remorse written across her face, her cheeks stained with tears. Sorry, Hinata said as she exited the room and ran down the corridor away from the Inuzuka clan member, her footsteps fading with each passing second. Kiba considered giving chase for a split second before deciding against it and remaining seated. He was aware of Hinata's bravery in apologizing, but that was only a small step, and he knew better than to press her any further. He would have breakfast with her and try to communicate with her again in the morning, but he knew deep down that nothing would ever be the same again. There's our destination, Kakashi said as he and the rest of Team 7 spotted a small town in a small clearing beneath the hill they were standing on. Let's get something to eat before we go exploring. Sakura stretched and rubbed her shoulder muscles as they placed their packs on the ground. She took a small mortar and pestle from her pack and placed them on the dirt. Whatcha doing? Naruto inquired as he noticed the equipment. I picked up a couple of things along the way, Sakura explained as she drew a couple of wildflowers she had picked while walking. I'd like to extract the fluid from the stem. It would be easier to slice it open and use a syringe. But I didn't bring anything like that with me. Yet you brought that kind of equipment, muttered Sasuke as he rummaged through his own pack for some rations. If I don't do this right away, the roots will dry up and the liquid will be useless, Sakura explained as she yanked the petals off the flowers and began crushing the stems. So, what can that stuff do? Naruto wondered as he watched the process closely. Well, with this small amount, it shouldn't do anything more than give me a slight headache. But if I used more than that, it would cause hallucinations, Sakura explained, assuming it hasn't been diluted with anything. Would you like me to go see if I can find you some more? Suggested Naruto. You don't have to do that for me, Sakura said as she paused from crushing the stems. I'm just getting the hang of it. I don't think I'm ready to make a proper poison just yet. Well, what better time to find out than now, said Naruto as he inserted his hands into his patented seal, causing 10 clones to appear. You guys know the drill, find flowers that look exactly like those. Yes, boss, they all agreed before scattering in different directions. Sometimes it seems like that jutsu is just too convenient, Sakura grumbled. I could teach you if you wanted, Naruto offered. And you'd almost kill her in the process, Kakashi added. There is a reason why the shadow clone jutsu is prohibited. Are you trying to kill me, Naruto Baka? Exclaimed Sakura. So, how come I can use the technique? Asked Naruto, who had never been told how the technique worked. He remembered seeing it written on the scroll he'd borrowed, but had ignored it in favor of perfecting the jutsu. The jutsu evenly distributes the user's chakra among the clones, meaning that with one clone, you have your chakra, Kakashi explained. If you create 2 clones, your chakra levels drop to a third because the 2 clones each take a third of your chakra. And if someone like Sakura used the jutsu, her chakra levels aren't high enough to withstand being halved and she would suffer chakra exhaustion or worse. Sasuke took this information in, fully aware that he had a much higher chakra level than Sakura and thus might be able to use the jutsu himself. Having seen the number of clones Naruto was able to produce on multiple occasions, his thoughts were more on the blonde beside him. Naruto had summoned at least 20 clones in the battle against Haku, seemingly without putting any strain on his body. This made Uchiha wonder how much chakra Naruto possessed. How much chakra do you recommend someone have before trying this jutsu? Sasuke inquired. I'd say you could easily make a single clone, Kakashi said, looking at his student. 2 would be pushing it, and 3 would most likely be your absolute limit. In fact, you'd probably injure yourself just with that number. With a confident grin, Sasuke placed his hands in the same position as Naruto and shouted, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, before anyone could stop him. The rest of Team 7 stood there watching as a single burst of smoke appeared, quickly dissipating to reveal an exact clone of Sasuke. Team, when did you copy that? Yelled Naruto, enraged that his most famous technique had been stolen. Do you think I wouldn't have seen it with my sharing in at some point after all the times you've used it, Dobe? Asked the Sasuke clone. It wasn't as draining on my chakra as I expected. But I can see the dangers, Sasuke explained. I thought you were the cautious one, mumbled Kakashi. Hey Kakashi-sensei, when do you think I'll be able to make a shadow clone? Sakura asked, her mortar and pestle pushed to the side for a moment. To be on the safe side, I'd like you to be able to stand on top of water for at least an hour, preferably 2, Kakashi said. 2 hours water walking. Done, Sakura said, knowing she could be researching other poisons at the same time. Before anyone else could say anything, there was a rustling in the bushes from 3 Naruto clones returning with flowers in their hands. We got these for you, Sakura-chan, they said as Sakura took the clones. Thank you, Sakura said as she placed them in the mortar with the other flowers. How are their 2 teams? They exclaimed, noticing Sasuke had created a replica of himself. Before they could be punished, Naruto wisely undid the jutsu, allowing the clones to poof out of existence. Time passed as the last of the Naruto clones returned with flowers and Sakura finished her poison. Sakura put the equipment away after emptying the contents of her mortar into a test tube, as Kakashi decided it was time for them to act. Alright, you 3, he said as the genin approached him. I want the 3 of you to try this mission on your own. Really? Exclaimed Naruto, ecstatic. Are you sure that's wise, sensei? Sakura inquired. I believe in you 3. Consider this another form of training, Kakashi said. Your mission is to find and locate the last seen target in this town. The Hokage stated that he is most likely to be drinking and womanizing, so prime locations would be bars and brothels. But, Kakashi-sensei, we're not old enough to go into those kinds of places, Sakura pointed out, pointing out one flaw in Kakashi's request. We can if we use a henge, Naruto declared, recalling the various disguises he and Sasuke had worn the day before. Rather than looking for him, make him come to you, Kakashi suggested. He's a self-proclaimed super pervert, so get yourself involved in something that will pique his interest. So you're saying we just have to look decent and he'll come to us? Sasuke inquired. Well, it won't be easy, but I'm sure the three of you can come up with something, Kakashi said, smiling as he looked out to the horizon. Alright, you've got about 15 minutes before it gets dark to get down to that town. You're looking for a perverted man with white hair that reaches his waist and red lines running vertically down from his eyes. Return here by midnight with or without him. Does this person have a name? Sekira inquired. Yes, Kakashi confirmed. You're looking for a man named Jiraiya. Chances are, if you find him, he won't want to cooperate, so you may need to try to bring him back in any way you can. Yes, sensei, they exclaimed as they dashed towards the town. Kakashi silently wished his team luck before reaching into his own pack and pulling out his prized first edition copy of Ika Ika Paradise, hoping that by the end of the mission, an autograph would line the front of the book. And that's about all I know about the situation, Kurenai said, nervously biting her lower lip. I see, Sarutobi said, drumming his fingers on his wooden desk. I suppose the best course of action would be to take her out of the exam. What? Kurenai's face flushed as she heard the elder man speak. Yes, Orochimaru is extremely dangerous, Sarutobi said, reaching forward to light his pipe. I would much rather have Hinata safe and in hospital than put her in danger out there, he continued, inhaling a sharp puff of smoke. With all due respect, Hokage-sama, Kurenai frowned. I'm going to have to disagree with you there. Teammate has already completed the second stage of the exam, so why bring them out now? Because the third stage is in some ways more dangerous than the second, Sarutobi explained, sighing. Kurenai's brow furrowed, a puzzled expression crossing her face. How so? She inquired. What could be more dangerous than throwing a swarm of genin into a forest that most jounin feared? I suppose it wouldn't hurt to tell you, since this phase is coming to an end, but you're not to inform your team of the next stage until the rest of the genin know, Sarutobi said, giving her a serious look. The third stage of the exam will be a one-on-one tournament, with each victor advancing to the next stage until someone wins the whole thing, he said after a brief pause. I see, she said flatly. It wasn't all that different from the Chunin exams she'd taken, though she hadn't been promoted as a result of them. She was one of the few who had received a field promotion, but that didn't help her understand what made the situation so dangerous. Tournaments weren't uncommon. It appears that you do not believe me when I say that the next stage of the exams are dangerous. Kurenai would have been surprised if she had been talking to someone else if her face had been read so easily. But the third Hokage did it all the time. It's just a tournament. Nothing bad will happen, right? She had wondered. You are correct, Sarutobi reflected. But you are also incorrect. Keep in mind that sometimes the only way to truly separate the genin from the chunin, the boys from men, the girls from women, is to have them fight to the death. Nothing Sarutobi could have done could have prepared her for those last few words, as Kurenai dropped the poker face that she had been attempting to carry as the Hokage continued. Fighting in such a situation is dangerous in and of itself, but fighting when one is not in peak physical and mental health puts one's life in jeopardy. That's a month away. But surely there's something you can do to help her, Kurenai begged. I've done everything I can, Sarutobi declared, his voice firm. It would be inappropriate for me to condone what is almost certainly going to be a merciless death of a defenseless genin. Please, Hokage-sama, give her a chance, Kurenai begged. I can guarantee you that she'll be fighting fit in a month. How exactly do you intend to do that, Kurenai? Sarutobi wondered, anticipating the Jonin's response. I'm not sure, Kurenai muttered, but I'll figure something out, and Anko will probably be able to help me out as well because she knows what we'll be up against. Sarutobi murmured, your points are reasonable, and if she's in an appropriate condition, I won't mind allowing her to participate. However, I believe the person we really need to talk to is her father. He's not going to like what we're going to tell him, Kurenai stated emphatically. And I'm sure he'd try to remove the seal himself, because the Hyuga are notorious for their sealing practices. Which is why I tried to contact my old student, Jiraiya, Sarutobi said, exhaling a puff of smoke. He is a well-respected seal master, and I have no doubt that once retrieved by the team I've sent, he will be able to deter the Hyuga from attempting anything. Impure, Kurenai inquired, unable to grasp what the Hokage was implying. Politics aren't always black and white, Sarutobi replied before moving on. I also think he'll be able to explain Hinata's condition to Hayashi. So what do we do now? Kurenai wondered. Do we tell anyone? Do we tell the rest of my squad? No, Sarutobi replied. We must keep this quiet. If we announce what happened today, we may fall victim to yet another of Orochimaru's infinite ploys. However, I would recommend talking to Hinata's teammates so that they better understand what she is going through. Alright, thank you, Hokage-sama, Kurenai said as she walked out of the man's office to find Anko. I'm not teaching that depressed little shit, Anko exclaimed, twisting her head to the side and crossing her arms. Anko, come on, Kurenai sighed as she leaned back against a wall. How else will we prepare her for the Chunin exams? There's no we in this, Anko replied, continuing to refuse to look at Kurenai. She's too whiny and quiet. I never expected the bastard to start giving hickeys to the silent type. Now is not the time for jokes, Kurenai scowled. If we don't help her, almost everything around her will fall apart. How will she understand what has happened to her without you? She's not, snorted Anko, dismissively waving her hand, ignoring the chatter of the few people in the Jounin lounge. Let her figure it out the same way I did. Kurenai bit her lower lip in frustration. Anko, stop being unreasonable and come with me to talk to her. Fine, muttered Anko before finally turning her head to face the Jounin, but only if you ask nicely. Anko, please come with me to talk to her, the Genjutsu master said firmly. See, it wasn't so difficult, Anko joked before taking a more serious tone. And it's already been done. I spoke with her when you assigned me to babysit. Thank you. Kurenai's eyes widened slightly. If you really wanted to thank me, you'd treat me to some dango later, Anko grinned, knowing that the skilled Genjutsu wouldn't be able to refuse her request this time. Okay, sure, Jounin-sensei continued, but what was Hinata's state of mind during the conversation? She's quiet and withdrawn, but I'd assume she's like that almost all the time based on how she dresses, Anko replied. I don't think she realized what was going on, but she was very concerned about how her family would react to the news. I spoke with the Sandaime about it, Kurenai said. He mentioned that he has a team looking for one of his old students to come and explain what has happened to Hinata's family. PFFT, good luck, Anko scoffed. The Hokage would only call one student in this situation, and unless he sends his best tracking team, they have no chance of finding him. I'm sure the Hokage sent the best team he could muster, Kurenai reassured. She was confident that Sarutobi would spare no expense in assembling an appropriate team for such a serious situation. There was even a chance they had already located this individual, and were on their way back. Where has he gone? Exclaimed Naruto. The sun had long since set, and the town had practically come to life with the arrival of the night crowd. Despite this, they'd had little luck finding the one person they were looking for. I think it's pretty clear that he's not out here on the street, Sasuke said, tired of hearing his teammates complain. We need to come up with something else. Well, it's not like we can go into every club and ask if there's a white-haired pervert in there, Naruto grumbled. If he's already in one place, there's a good chance he's not going to leave, Sekura predicted. However, if we went into club after club, he might figure out what we're up to. Chances are, some of these clubs are interconnected in some way. What do you mean? Naruto inquired. Imagine that one customer is bothering other customers. You'd think they'd have some way of informing other places to keep that person out, Sekura explained. And with our headbands, we're pretty easy to spot, Sasuke added. But it doesn't really matter if we keep switching henges. Actually, that may make things worse, Sekura said. That means that instead of just one person looking for him, there'd be a group, and he'd almost vanish even faster. So we need to find a way to draw him out into the open, Naruto thought as he sat down. Several ideas began to form, but none of them could be realized with the limited resources he had. Do we have any idea how many clubs there are? Sasuke inquired. At least 30, Sekura said, after quickly asking several locals for some useful information. That does not include adult establishments, as no one seemed to know much about them. Or they wouldn't tell someone who was too young to go into them, Naruto explained, knowing how it felt to have information withheld from him. So the situation remains the same, Sasuke explained. We need a way to get one person out there without him knowing we want him to come to us. I got it, Naruto exclaimed, slamming his fist into his palm. What? His two teammates inquired urgently. Well, Kakashi said he's not just a pervert, but a super pervert, Naruto explained. What if that means he has an extremely perverted sense? I have no idea what you're talking about, Sekura said. What I mean is that this guy may be able to detect perversion. Like a bloodline of sorts, Naruto explained. That's ridiculous, Sekura exclaimed, wanting to smack Naruto across the side of the head. It's plausible, Sasuke said. With the number of bloodlines available, there are bound to be some that are completely useless or redundant. I can't believe you're agreeing to his stupid idea, Sekura exclaimed. What kind of ancestry would tip you off to something perverted? What do you think Kakashi-sensei meant when he said super pervert? Naruto asked of the pink-haired girl. She tried for several seconds to come up with a reasonable answer, but she couldn't. She knew from some of their classes that such a bloodline had never been documented, but she couldn't help but wonder if the heirs to such an ability wanted others to know. Without anything to say, she sighed in defeat, wondering what stupid idea Naruto had in store for her. Given that this is the only theory we have, what's the plan? Sasuke inquired. Well, perverts are drawn to places where they can see ladies showing off their bodies, Naruto explained, and Sakura quickly covered up her private parts with her arms. Like hell, Naruto, she screamed, drawing a few suspicious looks from nearby civilians. Not by yourself, Naruto joked. A girl standing out in the open completely naked isn't sexy. In fact, people will rush forward to cover you up. We need something that will drop people's jaws to the ground while not insulting people by going too far. So you're suggesting that one of us henge into a female and kiss Sakura? Sasuke read between the lines, prompting the pink-haired girl in question to jump into the fray. Let's do it, Sasuke, she said, her fist clenched. You'll need to use a henge as well, Sakura, Naruto explained. It'll be wrong on so many levels if Sasuke turns into an 18-year-old woman kissing a 13-year-old. Are you going to say that you should kiss her? Sasuke inquired. If this wasn't a mission, definitely, Naruto said, looking at his high school crush. While I'm sure I could act everything out until the kiss, I doubt I'd be able to stay in character after that. Thank you, Naruto, Sakura began, placing her hand on the blonde's shoulder. Why, you're welcome, said Naruto, puzzled as to why the pink-haired girl seemed so grateful. Come on, let's get this over with, Sasuke said, mostly to get this over with so the three of them could resume their search. He moved across the street to a nearby alleyway where he could perform the henge without being noticed, and Sakura did the same down a different alleyway. She knew it was for the mission, but she couldn't stop herself from getting excited. Sasuke wouldn't be wearing his own face, but she wouldn't be wearing hers either, so they'd still be kissing. When Sakura realized she was no longer visible, she quickly performed the henge and transformed into an older version of herself in her late teens. She had changed her hair color and style to look more like Ino's as an added touch, figuring that if this person was already onto them, having the same unique hair color would be too obvious. Sakura noticed Naruto had vanished as she walked back out into the street. The blonde had undoubtedly gone to higher ground to keep an eye on their target without being seen. Turning towards the adjacent alleyway, she quickly spotted what she assumed was Sasuke's henged form. His female form was the same height as her and had the same short black hair. They crossed paths in the middle of the crowded street and stood in silence for a few seconds. Come on, let's get this over with, Sasuke said in a feminine tone, growing increasingly dissatisfied with the situation. Leaning forward, he gently caressed Sakura's lips, the female genin too stunned to respond. As Sasuke robbed her of her first kiss, she was in her dream state. After a few seconds, Sasuke drew back and looked around, only to discover that nothing had happened. It appeared that their intended victim had not taken the bait. Sakura awoke from her trance as Sasuke looked around, her lips still tingling from the initial sensation, and she desired more. Grasping Sasuke's cheeks, she drew him in as her lips slammed against her teammates, temporarily knocking the black-haired teen out. Sakura's tongue rushed forward, quickly invading the inside of his mouth before he could react. Sakura wasn't sure if Sasuke struggled for a moment before giving up, but she didn't care because she relished this opportunity that many of her peers had wished for. Sakura's hand moved away from Sasuke's face and slowly dived towards his ass, where she quickly squeezed his behind. She didn't know what had gotten into her, but she didn't want this moment to end, whether or not it attracted this pervert. She'd probably never get another chance like this again, and she wouldn't pass it up under any circumstances, except for one instance where she felt creepy breathing coming from a location that was too close for comfort. She turned her head to stare threateningly at whoever was invading their personal space, only to find a white-haired man who matched the descriptions they had been given. She cursed Naruto quietly, wondering how such a stupid plan had worked. Having said that, she would gladly reenact the same plan at any time. Don't mind me, keep going, Jiraiya said as he continued to scribble several notes on a piece of paper in his hand. Just act as if I'm not here. Like hell, exclaimed Sakura as she drew her hand back to strike out at the pervert, only to be surprised when her hand was caught with surprising ease. Please, Jiraiya pleaded, lowering Sakura's fist. you guys have some great material going on here, and I know my readers will be very interested in what you're producing here. Sorry, but that's not going to happen, Sasuke said, but not the one standing close to Sakura. Sakura turned around to find her teammate standing near the alleyway where his female counterpart had walked out earlier. Focusing her attention on the person she was kissing, she feared Naruto was the one who had stolen her first kiss. What she wasn't expecting was for the person to burst into smoke, revealing that it had all along been a shadow clone. While Naruto made his presence known to Jiraiya and Sakura, Sasuke walked slowly towards the group, not fully understanding why he felt the warmth of what he imagined to be Sakura's lips against his own. So, Jiraiya's mood darkened. The old man wants me back in Konoha. Yeah, Naruto replied. He also stated that it was quite urgent. Well, that's too bad, Jiraiya said carelessly, because I have no plans to return to Konoha. What? Shrieked Sakura, rubbing her ears slightly to make sure she was hearing correctly. Do you realize you've received a direct order from the Hokage? Meh, you underestimate how well I know the man, Jiraiya said, before pulling out a rather familiar orange book. Could I persuade any of you young people to buy one of my books? Books? Sasuke inquired, having dropped his henge. The Uchiha was certain that the only reason the pervert in front of him hadn't fled was because he was hoping to see Sakura and himself reenact the previous scene. How could you have not heard of my literature? From what I understand, your sensei is a huge fan, and surely he would have shared these treasures that I spent years handcrafting with you. Jiraiya shook his head. In any case, I can assure you that just reading the first chapter of one of these treats will make your life oh so much more enjoyable. Do you mean the written porn that Kakashi-sensei reads? Sakura inquired, her temper fraying slightly when Jiraiya offered a cheesy nod. How could you, as such a great ninja, write something so inappropriate? Yeah, I could see Kakashi-sensei reading it because he's just so odd, Naruto continued. But why would you bother writing something like that when you could spend all day playing pranks or something? You have yet to discover the joys of adolescence, Jiraiya pondered. I'm guessing you don't know where babies come from either, right? When Sasuke and Sakura heard this, they both blushed deeply, but Naruto, who had missed the lecture on adult activities, simply looked stunned. No, from where do they come? That's a lesson for another time, Kakashi said as he emerged from a roof where he had been listening in. It appears that you were successful in securing the client. It was all my idea, exclaimed Naruto, sticking his chest out. I knew his super pervert instincts would kick in. Baka, it was Sasuke and I who did all the work, Sakura huffed, her face flushing slightly as she recalled what the work had entailed. Interesting, Kakashi said before casting a single glance at the Sannin. He pulled out a book and opened it to the front page as he knelt on one knee. May I humbly request that you autograph this special edition copy of your masterpiece? Jiraiya nodded gratefully as he took out a pen and signed it with a grin. See, kids, this guy appreciates a genius like me. Well, why don't you come back to Konoha with us? Naruto suggested, recalling Konohamaru's teacher, Ebisu. There are a lot of other perverts who enjoy your work. I have fans all over the world, Jiraiya replied, unconcerned about Naruto's words. There isn't anything special over there. How about the hot springs? Sasuke inquired, realizing that the only way to entice the man back to their home was to play on his libido drive. The hot springs in the Fire Country are world-renowned for their exotic nature. I can't believe I'm saying this, sighed Sakura, realizing what Sasuke was doing. However, Konoha is full of hot kunoichi who enjoy visiting the hot springs. Jiraiya hummed. It's been a long time since I've checked out the kunoichi back home. So it's settled then? Naruto asked, hopeful. Hinata made a fist with her hand as she struggled out of bed. She was relieved to find a steady hand by her side, supporting her as she stood up straight as she stumbled onto the floor. Take it easy, Hinata, Kurenai advised. It's okay if you miss this, you look like you haven't slept all night. She hadn't done so. She'd been crying to herself until the early hours of the morning, when she finally managed to close her eyes for a few moments. Despite this, she would not call the almost comatose state she had entered sleep, especially given how exhausted she was afterwards. No, I want to go, she stuttered softly, leaning slightly on Kurenai. I'm curious what happened. What happened? Kurenai wondered, unsure what the still recovering girl was on about. If that strange man got any other genin, she explained flatly. Hinata would have taken a moment to reflect on the irony of the situation if she hadn't been having trouble forming coherent thoughts. Her voice was above and beyond the cool and collected charisma her father often demanded she exude. He didn't, Kurenai responded, realizing that waking up her student wasn't the best idea. She clearly needed to get more rest. I still want to go, the Hyuga said, taking her first step forward. I also need to see Neji. Neji? Hiranai asked, almost skeptically, before remembering that the boy was another contestant, Hinata's cousin. He's alright. Hiranai soon realized she was talking to herself, as the young heiress had taken a few steps towards the door. Grabbing the frame, Hinata smiled slightly coldly, which Hiranai immediately recognized as unusual for her. Are you coming? The girl asked, gritting her teeth and grunting slightly as a wave of pain washed over her body. Hiranai sighed as she walked forward, offering her arm to the girl for support once more. Though the pale-skinned girl did not accept it, she nodded gratefully as she leaned against the wall, slowly trotting forward. Hinata, Hiranai begged, but the girl ignored her. Hinata, you're going in the wrong direction. The girl slowly spun around, a slightly flustered expression on her face, and leant on Hiranai's side for support once more as the two made their way towards the lobby where all of the contestants were gathered. When she entered the room, she was greeted with a familiar smile. "Ah, Hinata, it's great to see you back on your feet," exclaimed Lee. "Thank you," she softly said, looking around the room. There were people she recognized from the first exam, as well as all of the other rookie genin from Konoha, with the exception of Team 7, and a few other random teams she couldn't quite place. Her lazy irises cycled through the various familiar faces, a sinking feeling in her stomach as she missed Neji. Though she hadn't expected her cousin to react in any way when he saw her, Neji had been emotionless for as long as she could remember. She couldn't shake the feeling that she owed him something to at least try to keep her safe. The fact that he had failed to do so was enough to convince Hinata that he had not cared about what fate demanded at the time. Neji would never admit it, but he had hoped to save her, Hinata knew, and he had pushed himself to new limits in his attempt. "Hiranai-sensei," muttered Hinata, her vocal cords as hazy as her mind. "I can't make out Neji." Hiranai took a look around the room, having a significant height advantage. "I can't seem to find him anywhere, either, but I'm sure he's there somewhere. Would you happen to be looking for my ever-youthful rival?" Lee inquired, a blinding smile on his face. Hinata simply stared, unable to understand Guy's student's words, until Hiranai gently squeezed her hand, causing her to nod with a jolt. "Are you sure you haven't seen him?" "He's talking to Guy-sensei," Lee said, motioning to a corner where Hinata could just barely make out the tall and green form of Guy, surrounded by several other ninja. With a mutter of thanks, she exchanged a nod with Hiranai's sparkling red eyes before bravely letting go of her teacher's hand and making her way to where she had spotted Guy. Though the feeling of dread in her stomach was still present, it was gradually dissipating. "Hey, Hinata," yelled another, causing the Hyuga to raise her head in curiosity to the source. "I was thinking that one of the forest monsters had eaten you up. Only a blonde like you would think of something that stupid," Shikamaru muttered, drawing a glare from Ino. "And no," Hinata said awkwardly. "I was just out for a short while." "Out?" Choji inquired, intrigued. "Did any of the other teams manage to track you down?" "Heh, I knew these exams weren't for little girls," boasted Ino as she noticed Hinata's perplexed expression. "I mean, Sakura was kicked out during the first round." "That was unfortunate," Choji added, seeing the Hyuga's disgruntled expression. "But, hey, I'm sure they're all right now. It's too much trouble to worry about any of that," Shikamaru sighed, running his hand through his hair. "Besides, we're only rookies. It's a miracle we all got through that entrance door in the first place." "Why, yeah," Hinata said, more concerned with locating Neji's figure. "Are you okay?" Ino asked, noticing Hinata was a shade or two paler than usual, which should have been difficult to notice given the girl's almost creamy skin tone. "You don't appear to be very attractive." "I'm just tired." "From what?" Ino inquired. "I saw Kiba all relaxed when we arrived, and we were one of the first groups to make it." Hinata stiffened slightly at the mention of her teammate. The recent altercation between the two is fresh in her mind as the initial pain from the seal now on her neck. Shikamaru's lazy self stepped in to save her the agony of having to reveal something she still hadn't accepted. "Nah, who cares? Stop bothering me." "Ino," the Nara said, "now let's go find Asuma-sensei, and hope we can get out of here sooner." "Sheesh, who put bees in your underpants?" Shika sarcastically asked Ino as she followed the tactical genius away. "See you later, Hinata." Choji waved as he pulled a packet of chips from nowhere and followed his teammates, leaving a perplexed Hyuga in his wake. Trying to shake the strange encounter, Hinata continued on her way to where Lee had said Neji was, her heart skipping a beat when she couldn't find Guy's barely visible form. She couldn't help but stare in awe as she made her way through the slightly crowded room, realizing that there were only a fraction of the genin that had been present in the prelude to the first exam with her in the room. Regardless, there were just enough people genin, Jounin-sensei, random assistants, and the like to make getting to the corner she was heading for a chore. When she finally got there, her lips split slightly in shock as she saw the heavily bandaged form of Neji casually talking to Guy. Despite her own body's weakness, the dread that began to rise when she saw her cousin, and the numerous obstacles still in her path, she skipped over to them. She cursed absent-mindedly as she realized she was missing some of her medicinal cream. It was a pity. He didn't appear to have changed those bandages in the last few days. Hinata had no time to pay attention to her two other teammates, who simply looked on in surprise as she buzzed past them. It sounded cruel, but she didn't care. All she wanted to do was thank Neji for being there. It felt surreal to know that he had stood between a great ninja with ill intentions and her after all the verbal slander she had received from the branch member for being too soft and the like. Hinata, Guy asked, turning away from his student. Kurenai said you'd be out for a little longer. I woke up. Hinata admitted sheepishly as she returned her gaze to the bandaged boy in front of her. Neji. The elder Hyuga slowly turned around, the mark of what could only be a sharp kunai cut visible on his left hand bandaged, and Hinata could tell by the dried blood visible on the inside that he had just taken it off. Her gaze was quickly drawn to the rest of his body as he knelt on one knee and bowed slightly. I'm sorry for failing you, Hinata-sama. Hinata bit her lower lip, unsure what to say. The gritty tone of his voice washed away any hope she had that the boy had changed his mind about her. It was clear that he resented every word he was saying. Sputtering slightly, she gripped her wrists tightly to prevent a sob from breaking out. Don't be like that, Neji, Guy said dismissively. I have no doubt that you gave it your all. Only as much as fate would allow, he replied bitterly, looking down at the ground. Though there was no ironic smirk, there was a slightly proud undertone to the boy's voice. It seems the tables of fate have flipped once more. And now, the one who escaped being sealed at the tender age of 5 has been branded with a much worse seal. Please don't tell anyone, Hinata said, quickly lifting one of her hands up to cover the seal in question, as if the jacket she was wearing wasn't enough. I will not speak of it voluntarily, Neji said as he stood up. However, I cannot guarantee that I will not add my own input should the topic arise. You shouldn't be so embarrassed, Guy advised. Don't waste your youth living in fear. Instead, embrace the fact that you are and will always be the person you are. Fate has made it so. Hinata couldn't tell if Neji agreed with Guy, but she could tell he didn't agree with what he was saying. Oh okay, she nodded, unsure what to say as the ground became noticeably more interesting. So, Hinata, what do you hope to gain from these exams? Dai inquired. The opportunity to have your flames of youth fanned in such a way is something unique to the Chunin exams. It leaves those who still drink from the fountain of youth with a choice, have their flames extinguished and wait until they are rekindled, or roar with even greater ferocity. I see you're stuck between these jerks again. Tenten chuckled as she approached the trio. Young Fate's flames, huh? Hinata simply nodded, making brief eye contact with the bun-haired girl as Neji fired daggers at her. They have good advice, she defended the pair as Tenten simply shrugged. To each their own, I suppose, the brunette said, fiddling with a kunai. Have you heard anything about why they're holding this meeting? Rumors, Hinata inquired, having not heard anything of the sort during her recent isolation. Oh, that's right, you've been in bed for a while, Tenten agreed. Well, they say that because the strange snake guy, Orochimaru, broke into the exams and messed with everything, they're going to cancel them. I suppose we can't do much more than accept it, Neji said curtly. If fate has decreed that the exams end early, then so be it. It's simply my fate, I suppose, to remain a member of the weak branch clan. That's not true, Neji, Hinata said, her voice trembling. You don't have to suffer any longer. I don't think you'll understand, Hinata-sama, he said coldly. Someone who grew up in the main house, like yourself, would not understand the burden I bear. We're not that different now, you know, Hinata said meekly, despite the fact that her body was anything but. They're two different seals, Neji said, frowning slightly. However, I suppose you have a valid point. That's interesting, Tenten said lamely, unsure what the two were talking about. Are we going to go back to how they decided to cancel the exams? Actually, Guy said, while I haven't been inside the ferocious circle of youthful gossip for many years now, I do know that the exams aren't being cancelled today. What do you mean? Tenten inquired. I swear Ino said she heard that. That weird Kyusa chick got a message from their cage. Interesting, Neji said. I had no idea other nations' cage were present. I believe they said a few were coming, Hinata recalled, looking up to Guy as the eccentric man spoke. Well, why don't you find out for yourself? Asked the green-clad Jounin, pointing to the center, where a man who appeared to be an official was gathering a crowd. Should we go over there? Neji inquired of his sensei. No, Tenten said in Guy's place. They've got this cool voice projection jutsu. The voice projection? Hinata asked, puzzled, shaking her head. The weakness she had awoken with had subsided for the most part, and while she could now put together coherent sentences, she was still not feeling well. "Watch, I'm sure many of you are wondering why you've been rounded up here," said the proctor in the middle of the room, whom Hinata had yet to meet. "It is so that the second stage of the Chunin exams can be officially concluded. We are aware that the exam ended a few days earlier than contestants were told previously, but we understand that this is because it was completed in record time." "Our record time?" Hinata inquired, looking around at the three people standing beside her. "All of the scrolls that were distributed at the start of the exam made their way back," Guy quickly explained. "So basically a fancy way of saying there were barely any competitors," Tenten explained. "It's to be expected," Neji said omnisciently. "A large number of people dropped out during the first exam. As a result, you will all get extra rest between this stage and the next. For those who are concerned about those still in the exam grounds for the second stage, if they are alive, they will leak out in the next few days. However, because all scrolls are in the proctor's possession, this means that all those who are not present here have failed. A very unfortunate circumstance," Guy sighed. "Despite the exam's high failure rate, I truly believe that the second stage would provide the strongest gusts of wind for your youth to contend with. For the third stage, contestants will compete in a one-on-one tournament. More details will be provided in the coming days. Keep in mind that the victor will not necessarily be one of those promoted to Chunin rank. The third stage will take place approximately a month away, to allow you time to prepare for your first opponent." Even though no one in her immediate vicinity opened their mouths, Hinata could hear almost everyone else in the room burst into laughter. "Naturally, in order to do that properly, you'll need to know your opponents. Listen carefully because I'm not going to repeat myself," the man said as he unrolled a scroll and read from it. "We have Shino Aburame versus Kiba and Yuzuka, Ino Yamanaka versus Hinata Hyuga, Gara of the Sand versus Neji Hyuga, Temari of the Sand versus Shikamaru Nara, Kenkuro of the Sand versus Kin Tsuchai, Rock Lee versus Tenten of the Leaf, and Dasu Kinuta versus Zaku Abumi." Kakashi couldn't believe his student's ability to persuade a member of the Sannin to join them on their return journey to Konoha. More than likely, he would conclude that it was simply due to their incredible amount of luck. That was also the reason Sasuke and Naruto were able to free him from the Zabuza water prison during the mission to Wave. They'd spent the night in a small inn and set out at first light for Konoha. Kakashi looked around at his team, noting some of the subtle differences between when they were removed from the CHNN exam a few days earlier. While the topic of the exams appeared to have become taboo since the removal of Team 7, Sasuke and Sakura had informed Kakashi of the situation before Naruto entered the picture. He had taken in all of this information and almost immediately realized that one of the CHNins who had been watching the exam would have sabotaged Naruto, either out of hatred for Naruto or because of the demon inside. It wasn't entirely clear, but Kakashi wouldn't dwell on the moment, preferring to focus on the positive outcomes of such an experience. Team 7 had truly begun to bond as a team, as evidenced by Sakura and Naruto having a lighthearted conversation with one another. Such a thing was less likely to happen a few weeks ago than the former Hokage's rising from the dead. "Good team you've got here," Jiraiya observed as he walked alongside the copy nin. "They weren't like this at first," Kakashi reflected nostalgically. "No team ever is," Jiraiya chuckled. "So, what made you decide to join us?" Kakashi inquired. "From what I heard last night, they bribe you with hot springs and other things that provide good source material for you. But there are hundreds of other places across the elemental nations where you could find such things." Naruto burst out laughing nearby. Kakashi followed Jiraiya's gaze and discovered that the Sannin member was staring directly into the back of Naruto's head. "I see," Kakashi said, connecting the dots. "Don't you think it's a little nostalgic?" Jiraiya asked. "I'm sure you feel the same way every time you look at him." "More than you realize," Kakashi said. "Anyway, do you know why I'm being summoned back to Konoha?" Jiraiya inquired, perplexed as to why his research time had been cut short. "Here," Kakashi said, pulling out an envelope given to him by the Hokage at the start of the mission. When Jiraiya was handed it, the white-haired sage opened it quickly and read the contents. "I see," Jiraiya said as he read the letter addressed to him by his old sensei. "The curse seal has been given to Hayashi's eldest. Isn't that Hayashi, the leader of the Hyuga clan?" Sasuke inquired, his ears picking up on the minor details. "What happened to Hinata?" exclaimed Naruto, quickly connecting the dots. "She was attacked by a former teammate," Jiraiya said as he incinerated the message he was holding with a small fire jutsu. "He gave her a seal that has a menacing effect on her chakra." "What kind of seal? Is it possible to remove it? Is there anything we can do to help?" Naruto asked quickly. "You, of all people, Naruto, should understand that seals are a serious business," Jiraiya said, almost instantly silenced the blonde. Sakura and Sasuke exchanged a quick glance, unsure of the message that had gone unspoken between the two of them as Jiraiya continued. I probably have the most in-depth knowledge of seals, and I'm going to do everything I can to protect Hinata from the negative effects this seal has. That's good to hear, Naruto said, relieved. Let's hurry, we need to get back to Konoha as soon as possible, he exclaimed as he began sprinting down the dirt road. Naruto, exclaimed Sakura as the rest of the group was left behind as the blonde increased the distance between them. You two, follow him, Kakashi said to his other two students. I'm not sure how the second exam is progressing, but it's possible that the rest of the teams have finished. It might be beneficial in the long run to talk to them and see how they did. Yes, sensei, said Sakura and Sasuke in unison before the two of them pursued the team's third member. I have no doubt you have the best team of genin imaginable right here, Jiraiya said. If they were my students, I'd be proud. Well, I still have a lot to teach them, Kakashi replied. Now that we're alone, Jiraiya asked, a sly grin on his lips, would you be able to answer some of my questions? For example, do you happen to know what the average bust size of a Konoha kunoichi is? There it is, exclaimed Naruto as he pointed to the gate. Jiraiya found it amusing to observe the genin's childish behavior. Clearly, despite the fact that the ninja headband that covered his forehead made him an adult, he was still a kid at heart. The white-haired man took this opportunity to look at the other two genin, the two Kakashi students who had served as inspiration for his next book. Sakura's eyes betrayed her rage at Sasuke for what he had done with the shadow clone, but her love for him kept her silent. Jiraiya could only guess that Sasuke had spent the majority of the trip trying to figure out something, and that it was because the memories of his shadow clone kissing Sakura had become his own. While he could help the genin by telling them about the shadow clones, it was much more entertaining this way. The author loved the small awkward moments where Sakura and Sasuke would turn towards each other, make eye contact, and then quickly look away. He was mentally scribbling down every detail he could get even though he didn't have his notepad with him. Though he was above simply transcribing and publishing the scenario, their small interactions opened the floodgates of creativity for the Sannin. Kakashi appeared to have noticed that the white-haired man was taking in everything he could from the two genin in front of him, and hadn't made conversation with him for the better part of the last half hour, likely not wanting to stifle his creative juices. It hasn't changed much in the last 10 years, Jiraiya observed as he glanced at the guard station nearby. There are two flak jackets. That meant they were most likely Chunin, as he usually tried to keep track of the identities of the newer Jounin through his extensive spy network. I'm sure if they even considered renovating the outer gates, a certain someone would rain on their parade, Kakashi said, making no small effort to keep his gaze from falling on Naruto. So the brat was a prankster. It's not like Jiraiya hadn't predicted that. He took a few steps forward to the gate with a sigh, the four younger shinobi trailing behind him as he cleared his throat. Halt, one of the alleged Chunin commanded, holding out his hand with confidence. What are you doing here? PFFT, I'm insulted that people your age and rank haven't heard about me, Jiraiya said. Instead of speaking directly to them, he focused his attention on the blonde kid next to him. People shouldn't ask this question when a man is being escorted into Konoha by a team of shinobi without any kind of shackles. Don't you agree? Wait, what? Inquired Naruto, unsure of the question. Never mind, Jiraiya said. Just make sure this is something you fix when you become Hokage. Run away and find your friend right now. Hinata, exclaimed Naruto as he dashed down the street, Sakura and Sasuke following close behind. While the mention of the Hyuga heiress may have gone over Naruto's head, his teammates had picked up on the fact that the Sannin members seemed to have a lot of faith in Naruto's potential. They couldn't help but wonder if the white-haired man would be able to provide them with some of the answers they were looking for. The blonde continued forward at breakneck speed, weaving in and out of citizens with little thought as he set his sights on the Hyuga compound. Knowing the people who usually stood guard outside the gates, he knew there was no way he'd be let in for a casual call. But he was determined to get in somehow to make sure Hinata was okay. Do I walk 100 meters north from the tower, turn left when I see the big oak tree, and then follow the dirt road? Jiraiya inquired, eliciting a nod from Kakashi. The Hokage probably wants you to work on whatever he's summoned you for, Kakashi said after the pair passed through border security. But I'm sure he'd find it just as important that you find inspiration as well. You are a wise man, Jiraiya said before frowning. So, what did the old man want me to do with the cursed seal? I thought I was too much trouble to keep around after those kunoichi chased me out of the village a few years ago. It's very likely that he wanted you to try to mitigate its effects, Kakashi replied casually. I'm sure it's a painful experience, and Hayashi's eldest is quite timid. Strange, said the white-haired man. I'd have thought he'd go after Tsunade if he needed a Sannin to help heal a Genin. Well, Tsunade isn't exactly all that experienced. When it comes to picking up after Orochimaru, Kakashi began to stutter as the pair made their way towards the Hokage's office. Oh, he's back at it again. Jiraiya would have shook his head in disappointment if he hadn't been used to his former teammates' antics. I'm curious what else he did this time. At the very least, the village appears to be standing. Last I heard, he was obsessed with immortality, Kakashi responded, pulling out an orange book and making a mental note to have the man in front of him sign it at some point. Yeah, that's been going on for a while, Jiraiya agreed. He must be looking for something from Konoha that will aid him in his quest for immortality. There's that forbidden scroll the Shodaime wrote. Maybe there's something interesting in there somewhere, Kakashi remarked, recalling that the first thing his blonde student saw was a rather high-class jutsu. Who knew what other secrets lay within the scroll? Not likely, Jiraiya said, shaking his head. Those are mostly suicide jutsu. You use them if you want to go out with a bang. Well, Naruto found the Kage Bunshin in there, so I'm sure Orochimaru could get something working with all his experiments. How on earth did he get his hands on the scroll? Jiraiya wondered. I thought the Sandaime had that thing locked up. Do you remember that jutsu Sasuke used back in the town we found you in? Kakashi inquired. What's the big deal about him turning into that smoking hot chick and making out with Pinky? Jiraiya inquired, shrugging. That was invented by Naruto, and he used it to knock the Hokage unconscious. Jiraiya's face twisted into a feral grin. Bloody lucky brat. He not only invents the greatest jutsu in the world, but he also obtains the forbidden scroll. He's lucky, to be sure, Kakashi said, but I wouldn't call him bright. Why is that? Jiraiya inquired. He knew the blonde wasn't very bright, but Kakashi seemed to be implying something else. With that jutsu, he could probably have any straight man in his pocket, but he never uses it. And he still hasn't figured out the main benefit of having shadow clones. They don't fight each other anymore. But he hasn't bothered to investigate their potential. I see, Jiraiya said quickly, his gaze fixed on the looming Hokage tower. It makes more sense to let him learn on his own rather than spoon-feeding him everything. And he's too hyperactive. If you give him ammo, all you'll see is explosions all week. There were a few guards standing around the compound, and they appeared to be having a relaxing day. From where he was, not far behind the gates, he could see that the veins around their eyes weren't strained in that creepy familial jutsu of theirs, which allowed them to see things from a great distance. But still, to get around them, one would have to sneak past with great care. Thankfully, before he could do anything stupid, he felt Sakura and Sasuke's hands grab his shoulders, preventing him from leaping forward. Easy dope, Sasuke said, trying to calm Naruto down. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. But what if Hinata is in trouble? Worried Naruto. Recall some of the training you've been doing with Kakashi-sensei, Sakura said, causing the boy to pause for a moment as his mind raced through all the information. While the three teammates had never discussed the specifics of their training, Sakura remembered that Kakashi had originally taken Naruto for stealth and reconnaissance training, so hopefully he had learned something that would now help them. I guess you're right, Naruto said as he calmed his breathing, surprising both of his teammates who hadn't expected such a response, both expecting to have to tie him down and spend an hour talking to him. But even so, nothing, Sasuke interjected. Look at the information we have and we can devise a strategy from there. Well, all we know is that Hinata was bitten by one of Jiraiya's teammates, and as a result received a cursed seal or something. Naruto explained. Exactly, that's all we know right now, Sakura said. We have no idea where Hinata is right now. The old opening the eyes and looking down the street trick seems to be pretty effective, sarcastically said Sasuke, looking down the road to where he could see the daughter of the Hyuga clan's head walking away from the compound. Naruto was about to say something to her when his mouth was covered by both Sakura and Sasuke. There's one more thing we need to remember, Sakura said, looking directly at the blonde. The person who attacked her is a village traitor. We didn't see any extra security when we came in through the main gates today, so we can assume that knowledge of what happened isn't widely spread. So what does that mean we do? Naruto asked, grasping the gist of what Sakura was saying. It means, dope, that we don't just approach her and ask how it feels to be bitten by a Konoha enemy, Sasuke explained. Ask her broad questions that skirt the subject, but never directly ask her what happened. Got it, Naruto said as his teammates let go of his shoulders, allowing him to charge forward once more. Do you think he remembers most of that? Sakura wondered as she and Sasuke walked in the same direction as their teammate but much more slowly. A month ago, I would have said he wouldn't remember any of it, Sasuke said. And now? Sakura inquired, looking for a follow-up. Perhaps 40%. Naruto was tempted to rush up to Hinata and check on her, the thought of anything bad happening to one of his friends being unbearable for the blonde. She'd been so sweet to him, offering to let him cheat on her exam even though all he had was a blank sheet. Naruto could only recall a few other people doing similar things for him, but he knew he couldn't do it after Sasuke's words. It would be almost stupid to do it in public where anyone could overhear. This Konoha foe, Jiraiya's former teammate, the person who had attacked her and placed a seal on her, apparently messing with her chakra. He sounded dangerous. Naruto was the type of person who welcomed a challenge, but this guy sounded like someone Naruto would never want to meet. Unless, of course, that meeting involved him punching the asshole in the gut for hurting Hinata. According to Kakashi, Jiraiya was fairly strong, indicating to the blonde that the older pervert was on par with or above the other pervert's level. Naruto had realized that Kakashi's strength was something he was still trying to grasp. Initially, the man appeared to be a typical lazy douchebag who was born strong, but Naruto's opinion of him had begun to rapidly change in the previous week or so. Their sensei was now giving them difficult training exercises and jutsu, indicating that he was clearly above their level. In other words, Naruto felt like a house cat next to the mighty lions that were Kakashi, Jiraiya, and possibly the latter's former teammate. Naruto stood there watching as another person their age joined Hinata. He almost felt as if he should have recognized the person, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't put a name to the face. The boy's clothing and general smug expression made it clear that he was a Hyuga, as he resembled the guards Naruto had seen a few minutes before, the polar opposite of Hinata. He was still a long way from the girl and her friend, but Naruto noticed the foliage that was growing in number as they got further away from him. Perhaps he could take to the trees and follow them while he figured out how to confront Hinata. Naruto abruptly turned around, realizing that he hadn't paid attention to where his two teammates had gone in his haste to catch up with Hinata. He looked around for a few more seconds before realizing that the two Hyugas were slowly slipping out of his sight, so he shrugged and ran up the nearest tree, leaping from branch to close in on them. Another thing that had bothered Naruto was Jiraiya's former teammate's ability to play with seals and mess with people's chakra. That didn't sit well with him at all. While everything sounded horrible and nasty, there was one thing Jiraiya had said that lingered in the back of his mind. Of all people, Naruto, you should be aware that seals are a serious business. What was the significance of that? What did Jiraiya mean by that, aside from the obvious reference to the gigantic monster sealed within Naruto's stomach? There were two possibilities. Either this seal slapped on Hinata was as significant as the one he'd been born with, or Jiraiya was warning him that this guy could potentially mess up his seal and mess with the Kyuubi as well. I'm glad you came out for a walk for me, Neji Nai-san, Hinata said as she pressed her fingers together. I've been longing for some fresh air. It is my responsibility to protect you, Hinata-sama. Escorting you is just one aspect of that responsibility, Neji spoke softly, but in his usual monotonous tone. Why, you could accompany me, Hinata said weakly, her body still not fully recovered from the exertion she had recently endured. I've wanted to thank you. Thank you? Neji asked, surprised. What do you want to thank me for, Hinata-sama? Hinata's voice was as gentle as the cool breeze blowing through the path that would eventually lead into town. Before anything happened, you tried your hardest to keep Orochimaru away from me, and seeing you like that, fighting against those odds, that really encouraged me. Hinata-sama, Neji began, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I failed to do my duty that day, and you paid the full price for it. That is fate, I suppose. But I must accept responsibility for the consequences of my failure. No. Hinata firmly shook her head as she looked down at the ground. You didn't let me down, and you gave it your all. That's all that matters. Excuse me for speaking up, but Hinata-sama, do you not understand what has happened? Orochimaru has marked you with his cursed seal, branded you with a very dark mark, and things will never be the same for you as a result. For the first time, formality faded from Neji's voice. I know, Hinata said, her eyes welling up as she tried not to think about the implications that the seal would inevitably have on her life before gently shaking her head and looking up to Neji with a Naruto-esque smile on her face. I have realized that everyone's lives will come to an end one day. It's really sad. But all we can do is live our lives to the fullest and look back with no regrets. I see, Neji said, nodding. While I still believe fate determines the majority of events, Hinata-sama, I understand and respect your beliefs. Hinata simply smiled back at him, glad that they were on the same page for once in their lives. Anyway, I believe I'm due for a meeting with Hayashi-sama, your father, so I won't be able to escort you any further, Neji said before looking up at a tree nearby where a small blob of orange stirred. so I'll have to say goodbye. But I do recommend you get that orange idiot who's been tailing us for a while out of the trees. With that, Neji turned on his heel and walked away, not looking back as the boy in the orange jumpsuit fell out of the tree and landed with a thud on the ground. And Naruto-kun. Hinata rubbed her eyes, stunned, as she saw her crush appear out of nowhere. Hinata, said Naruto awkwardly, scrambling to come up with an explanation for why he'd been in the trees. We returned from our mission, and I was practicing tree climbing for chakra control when I noticed you. And I wanted to know how you did on the first test. We passed, Hinata said, struggling to look at Naruto, her feet appearing to be more interesting to watch than the boy in front of her. We even passed the second test. That's incredible, Naruto said, trying to sound as if the news wasn't brand new to him. I'm sure someone as amazing as you would have breezed through it. Naruto had no idea how his words would affect Hinata, whose face turned bright red and her consciousness threatened to fade. However, where she would have undoubtedly woken up after passing out, her nerves were steeled as she suddenly felt a surge of confidence rush through her system. She reached out and grabbed Naruto's hand, leading him away without saying anything else. Meanwhile, Naruto couldn't figure out what was going on. He hadn't deviated from the small plan he had devised with his teammates, but this was far from the reaction he had anticipated. He opened his mouth a few times but couldn't think of anything to say because he was just letting Hinata lead him somewhere. Perhaps it was somewhere more private where he could elicit more information from her without anyone else listening in. That's it. She just wants to go somewhere where no one can see us for a while, Naruto concluded. He had no idea that the reasoning he'd concocted for this was nothing like what Hinata had planned, assuming she had planned anything at all. Meanwhile, Sasuke and Sakura stood in the same spot Hinata and Naruto had only moments before, looking at each other in confusion, neither of them fully comprehending what had just occurred.
I will continue the story in next part. Till then, we weave offline.